2 again. Inside. Hits it on the ground, left side, whip dive, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular. The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Royals. Already butchering things. It's Tuesday, April 29th. I'm Jared. That's Kevin. The Royals are back, I think we can say. Kevin, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. It's like the Dinah Washington song. Instead of what difference a day makes, what difference a week makes. We're almost a hockey podcast a week ago, and now we're thinking about, hey, like the Royals are back, postseason, baby. Really good week for the boys in blue, especially after that 2 weeks ago when it looked like things were looking pretty much doom and gloom.
Yeah, I mean, we said at the end of the last podcast that we would become a hockey podcast if the Royals got swept by the Rockies. They did the exact opposite and swept the Rockies. Thank God, because watching this Rockies team, it's really, really bad. I'm going to get into the Royals here in a second, but this team, the Rockies are 4-22, and if you need to get things right, you need to right the ship. The Rockies are the team to do it against, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're the 2025 White Sox in a way. I mean, they're in a very tough division, just like the White Sox were in a very tough division last year. And again, it seems like the Rockies are kind of going through a rebuilding movement. They don't got Charlie Blackmon anymore. They don't have. Well, I mean, I guess they haven't had Trevor Story for a couple years, but they're kind of going through a youth movement and taking their lumps. But they don't have any pitching, and when you don't have any pitching and in Coors Field, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I mean, the Royals almost had a scare in Game 1. I watched that entire game. I think all of us were messaging on the group chat talking about that game. Kris Bubic absolutely dominated. 7 innings, 4 hits, 6 Ks. Royals were cruising 3-0. Ursa comes in the 8th. Dominates again. Then Carlos Estevez. This is not what you expected. Goes 1 inning, blows the game, 3 earned runs. I think he did it all with 2 outs too, right?
Correct. Right. 2 outs. Yeah. And he had 3 straight walks, right? So the guy's been pinpoint control all year, most of his career. And against his former team, he walks 3 in a row, which set up that big hit from Jacob Stallings, which tied the game and sent it to extra innings.
Yeah. And a good thing about extra innings, the Royals were able to walk it off in the bottom of the 11th. Freddie Fermin got the single, I believe drove in Mark Canha on that one. Much needed win. Glad they did not blow that game. But it was nice to see the offense wake up a little bit, right? Like Drew Waters went 3 for 4. He was absolutely on fire. Hit a triple, hit a home run. He played some decent defense in that series as well. Like he's really kind of starting to come into his own. It's cool to see.
Yeah, he had a really great week. I mean, we kind of saw at the end of the week when the Royals avoided the series or the road trip sweep, right? And he had a good game against Detroit. And he really seemed to carry that over into the homestand. Again, you talked about the multiple hits he had against Colorado. He's, swinging with power. He's, playing some good defense. He just looks really comfortable out there, which we didn't really see when he first got called up, and we really didn't see at all in his lone call, in his small cup of coffee last year. So it's, that's really good because the Royals right now, like they sent down MJ Melendez to help him develop some things. And it's nice to see Drew Waters kind of give them the spark they needed in his spot because they weren't getting it from anybody else, unfortunately.
Yeah. And again, he, like you said, he went 2 for 3 in Game 2. I think he had a multi-hit game against the Astros. And one thing I like about Q is he's kind of leaving him at the bottom of the lineup, right? Like, let him find his feet. And he's finding it, but don't put the pressure on him all of a sudden, like hit him lead off or hit him up in the 5th or 6th spot. There still seems like they're keeping him in that 7, 8, 9 area, which I think is good for him. Let him get that confidence. Like let him keep rolling at the bottom of the lineup because, like we've talked about, that's where the lineup's been really struggling.
Yeah, and I kind of like that at that order. It kind of allows him to be who he is. The reality is he's not going to be a high contact hitter. He's striking out 32.8%. He's only walking, 3.8%. But it is what it is. Like he gives upside. He probably has the mold of an MJ Melendez in some ways, but he's hitting and he looks comfortable, and he's going to have those at bats where he strikes out and looks real bad, but then he's going to have those at bats where he's going to make a big hit. I saw that on Sunday, even though the Royals lost. He looked really bad against Hunter Brown. I mean, Hunter Brown was just kind of dominating him, but he had a really good hit, and he hit one down the line that ended up kind of causing a little bit of a late inning rally. So I kind of like him at the end of the order. It gives a spark. There's some upside there, which is what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And going into like game 2 and 3, it's like the entire Royals offense started to show up too, which was awesome. Scored 7 runs in game 2, 6 in game 3. I was like, whoa, calm down, guys. There's a lot of runs there. But yeah, like Salvi's getting back into form. We kind of talked about that a little bit in his struggles. It went 2 for 4 in game 2, went 3 for 4 in game 3 with 2 doubles. And it's just kind of good to see him back over basically 200 at this point. I think he had another multi-hit game or a couple multi-hit games against the Astros as well. So really trying to find the stroke. I think we talked about on the last podcast as well that like the underlying data was still decent for Salvi. So like the concerns there, I think were a little less for unlike a guy like MJ or Vinny, who you look at the underlying data and you're like, kind of worried there. But it's been good to see Salvi back.
Yeah, against Colorado, I mean, he was really locked in on that doubleheader, and he just looks a lot more locked in at the plate. I think one of the things that we've seen is kind of these kind of half-hearted swings where he's chasing out of the zone with 2 strikes, and it's almost like he's just trying to foul it off. We're not really seeing that. It looks like he's kind of seeing the ball well. And he's not getting multiple hits. He's hitting the ball hard, and again on Sunday, he was hitting the ball hard. And I know he had a double, and he looks really good at the plate. I'm kind of like we talked about the regression, right? The expected WOBA was a lot different from the actual WOBA, and we're kind of starting to see that kind of like get a close out a little bit. So hopefully he continues that, because they really need him in that 4 hole to really provide something, especially if Vinny's not going to be really doing all that much.
Yeah. And I mean, the good news too is like you had more dominance from the pitching staff. I think the one thing that's probably concerning for both of us is seeing the potential injury to Cole Ragans. Comes out of the game. It seems like they said it was not a hamstring, but a cramping.
Cramping, I think, in the quad. Yeah.
Quad, not hamstring. What are your concerns there with Ragans?
Well, we kind of heard about it in his previous start where Q had taken him out a little bit early. And some of the people they were kind of saying, hey, like this is kind of an injury, like he was starting to cramp. And you kind of think, okay, beginning of the year, maybe he didn't hydrate. But then again, he kind of has this 2 games in a row, and it's like, okay, is this a bigger underlying issue? Yeah. I don't think it's a conditioning issue, but it's just like, what's kind of going on? And to be compared, it's actually it's a groin cramp. So not a quad, groin. And, and those are really big because, with a pitcher like Ragans, who has so much in his motion, you kind of wonder and hope that, like, hey, is he aggravating something? And again, he's not going to pitch in his spot. We saw that they released the starters, and his projected spot would be Wednesday, is to be announced. So we don't know if he's going to go to the IL. We don't know if they're going to give him an extra day. They don't know. He might even go Wednesday, but it's going to be an interesting thing because he's such a key part to this team and their success so far. Losing him for an extended period of time would be bad, but if it's only a minor thing, you also want to play it safe, especially this early in the year.
Yeah, and he went in that game 3 innings, 4 earned, 2 walks, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts, gave up 2 home runs. Like he just didn't look comfortable, and it was kind of apparent too in the velocity. I think he was like almost 1.5 miles an hour down on the fastball. All the secondaries were lower and slower than they usually were. So just something wasn't right. I'm hoping it's not a more long-term issue for him where we don't see him for a couple of weeks. But we were just talking like prior to recording, like I'd rather see the Royals play it safe. Like you mentioned, everybody is healthy. This would be the time if you're going to like give him rest to try to bounce back. Like, do it right now. Team's hot. The pitching staff's looking good overall. If he needs to miss a starter or two, like, let him miss a starter or two to make sure he's going to be fully 100% ready to go for the rest of the season.
Right. I mean, you got the depth right now. I mean, is the depth ideal? No. I mean, Alec Marsh is still working through stuff. Kyle Wright is still working through stuff. But you got Noah Cameron, and Noah Cameron's, is doing well. And, Lorenzen's healthy. Lugo's healthy. Wacha's healthy. Bubic is healthy. You have Daniel Lynch that if you need to, he was working this spring as a starter. So if you needed to have him spot start, you can do that. It's better to do it now rather than like, oh, wow, Daniel Lynch got hurt, or, oh, wow, Michael Lorenzen got hurt. And now you're like, well, like, do we really want to put Ragans on the IL now? Because we're already thin as it is. It's still early in the season. We're not even towards May yet. If you're going to put him on the IL as a precautionary, you might as well do it and just make sure he's 100%.
Yep, I agree. You have anything else on this Rockies series? The only thing I'll mention is Carlos Estevez did bounce back, wound up getting a save in game 2, so not really concerned there. Daniel Lynch was dominant out of the bullpen in 2 games, I think, in that series as well. So some good highlights there. But anything else for you?
I think sometimes that we look at the first game, for example, and you think, man, like the Royals almost blew it. And I know sometimes we love to see a 10-0 win to set the tone, but sometimes those comeback wins, the games that I kind of forgot they actually didn't have the lead and they came back in the 9th to tie it up. But those kind of like facing adversity and coming back, we haven't seen the Royals do a great job this year in terms of adversity. It seems like anytime they've been down in the 9th, they've kind of just not folded, but they've just kind of went down. And that was kind of nice to see that they're facing a bad team. It's a close game, and they come back and they kind of show what they're made of. And that has kind of definitely sparked them the rest of their way. I mean, even the next 2 games, they kind of took care of business. So I think sometimes that we like to think against a bad team, every game should be 10-0. But sometimes getting that big win against a team that you should beat and doing so in a way that, you face some adversity can also be a team building exercise.
Yeah, you see it over a course of a 162 game season. Bad teams will win. They will win. They'll find ways. It's baseball. You have it happen at the college level. You have it happen at the major league level. Like Northwestern State 10-run ruled LSU. Like, things happen.
Yeah, right. It's with baseball. It so much depends on how your pitching is doing or how the ball's bouncing. So you can't. I mean, it's not pro football. It's not college football where it's like, oh yeah, like the good teams always have to beat the bad teams. I mean, we've seen it recently. I mean, we've seen bad teams beat good. I mean, if you saw the Nationals take it to the Orioles, right? And so, it's you can't really take any series for granted.
Yeah, I think I'd be more concerned if the Rockies like 115-1 or something.
Right.
Then I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe we got some issues we need to figure out here. Moving on to the Astros series. So 2 beautiful 2-0 game wins to start game 1 and 2. Lugo and Wacha dominated the Astros. Astros, okay, we should preface that this isn't your dad's Astros team or whatever that you got to watch like 5-10 years ago. This is a completely different team. Not the same. You have Jose Altuve playing left field. I don't think he even played left field in this series, did he? Oh, no, he did in the game 2. But Jordan Alvarez is there. Like, you look at the middle of the lineup of the Astros, Isaac Paredes, Jeremy Pena, like, fine. They're decent baseball players, but you don't have your Kyle Tucker. You don't have your Alex Bregman. You don't have your Carlos Correa. Like, this is a completely different Astros team. But the Royals were able to take 2 out of 3, which is good.
Yeah, this is, I really like that we faced the Astros here because in some ways the Astros are like Tampa Bay West in a way. Like or Tampa Bay Tampa Bay Southwest. Like they're built very the same. They kind of have like their 2 key players that are like, okay, we're going to build around them. And then you have some really great pitching, but it's all cost controlled pitching. They don't have they don't have the Verlander. They don't have, the Dallas Keuchel anymore. It's, they have some really talented arms. And they have really just a lot of young dudes, a lot of guys that have some interesting skill sets, but like guys like the Rays would have. And it's just like, we're just going to hope that, these guys, we can get max out their potential. And I think that's really key because we got a series coming up against the Rays and kind of facing a team like the Astros. I feel like it's good prep for the Rays just because it's like, hey, we already faced a team like this. And, we know what to face and we know what to expect. And I feel like that helps. So,
Yeah.
like you said, this is not your trash can gate Astros over here.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why we boo anymore. It's like when people like boo Carlos Correa, I'm like, this is dumb. If anything, it just fires him up. Yeah. If anything, it just fires him up and then he does well against it. Just ignore him like everybody else around the nation does. And I think he'll probably do a lot worse. But really key to shut him out 2 games in a row. That's not easy to do, even if the Astros aren't exactly who they used to be.
Yeah, and I mean the Royals' offense were still a little bit stagnant there, but like Hayden Wesneski threw a good game. You have to give him some props there, and it's not like they faced easy arms. Like Framber Valdez was in game 2. Hunter Brown is probably one of the best younger pitchers in the entire Major League Baseball. But I agree with you. Like this Astros team is very much like the Rays offensively, right? It's like you have your one big bopper in Yordan Alvarez and like Jose Altuve is your other big name. But you're like relying on guys like Cam Smith, who's like awesome prospect, right? But it's a rookie trying to play right field in a new position, also at the big league level. So it's like Christian Walker and Jeremy Pena are good not role players. They're good Major League Baseball players, but they're not great Major League Baseball players. So you're like kind of middling your way through. I guess the big thing for me in game 1 is Bobby Witt, of course, raked 3 for 4. Drew Waters again had a multi-hit game. Kyle Isbell Renfroe came up with some clutch RBIs. And I think that's guy I really wanted to touch on probably throughout the week is Renfroe started to turn it around with the bat a little bit too. He came up in some clutch situation. He's still kind of hitting like 177 on the season, but there's at least some signs of like what the bat used to be.
The at-bats are there. The approach is there from him. And it seems like he's getting the swings he wants. It's just like the power's not there. And the reality is like maybe he's cooked and he just doesn't have it. But I feel like it's just like a one adjustment away, but he's not giving away at bats. It's not like it's not like he's chasing stuff like he was earlier. He is drawing walks. He is coming up with like some of those key hits. He's not trying to do too much with it. So yeah, I mean, I feel encouraged by him. It's like I think it's a different story than MJ. Well, MJ, I was kind of like, man, like he just looks lost. I feel like Renfroe knows what he's doing. It's just not really working for him physically. And I feel like at his age and his body, I kind of joked like on an offline group chat. He's like a steroid era player, but without being on steroids. Just his body type and just how he is. It just doesn't look very, very natural. And I just think sometimes he needs to like have some time to get it going. He's traditionally always been a slow starter over his career. And so maybe we're starting to see him kind of get like warmed up and in his groove, and he's going to have a strong May.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's hopeful, like warmer weather, maybe he'll start to really start to feel things. Other guy who had some positive signs, Vinny Pasquantino went yard off of Framber in game 2, a little left on left crime right there. But man, this is a guy still like the savant data is not great when you look at the underlying. Good bat speed, he's squaring things up. It's just like he just seems like he's pressing and trying to do too much. I think I mentioned this earlier in one of our podcasts, like he made the goal of like breaking Mike Sweeney's RBI record. And I just think he's trying to do way too much and kind of getting away from the player that he was last year.
Yeah, and we, I know both of us are really into data and really looking at that, and I know there's a lot of data factors. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about where he's standing in the plate and how maybe his bat speed is like he's just trying to do too much, and that's preventing him from squaring it up. But the reality is like you think about all the hype Vinny's gotten the last couple of years, especially last year. He's on MLB Network shows. He's doing all these like guest spots, and people love him, and rightfully so. He's an awesome dude. If I could go out on the town with anybody like in Kansas City, I would want to go out with Vinny because I just know it would be a fun time. But I think, he is human. And I think, it's like, hey, the expectations are really high. I'm playing with one of the best players in baseball. And, once things aren't really going his way, it's like you could see him pressing. He's swinging more than ever. He's swinging. He's chasing more than ever. That's not his MO as a prospect. That wasn't his MO in his first couple of years as a player. So you want him to relax, but that's always easier said than done, right? And I think I like what Q has done is against lefties, he's put him down in the order, and we're kind of starting to have some success against lefties because I think the pressure is off. Now I'm not saying that they need to do that permanently, but I'm kind of curious to see if maybe Q will start to maybe put him down in the order. But the problem is, who do you put at 3? And that's the problem right there.
And they tried Canna, right, at one point, because they
I
put
think
Vinny
so.
down lower in the lineup, and I think Canna hit 3rd or 4th for them.
Yes.
And it's just like, he's not a power hitter. He's not a guy who drives and runs. Like, you just don't have a guy outside of Salvi and Vinny who can be those dudes right now.
Yeah, we got a lot of good 6 hitters on the team, right? Like, we have a lot of guys who can hit 6th and 7th really well.
Yeah.
Like, you could say like Canna or Michael Garcia or Hunter Renfroe. It's like all those guys would be awesome 6 or 7 hitters, but we need like 3 and 4 and 5 hitters right now. And that's kind of the problem, because it doesn't seem like anybody's really stepping into those roles, especially beyond like Bobby and Salvi.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of turns it into game 3. One guy that we've been looking to turn it around. The Royals lost this game 7-3. It wasn't very pretty, and we can kind of talk about some of those things. But Jonathan India, he went 2 for 3 in this game. RBI, walk. To me, this is a guy I've dove into the underlying data on as well. Like, the barrel percentage, hard hit percentage aren't looking great. Those aren't things that India has ever really been known for in the past anyways, but the categories where he's always been strong, the squared up percentage, the chase percentage, the whiff percentage, the K percentage, the walk percentage, like, those are all still bright red on his Savant page. Like, he's in the 90th percentile in a couple of those categories. He's getting the sweet spot of the bat. So I think that's something that's been huge for him as well. He's just got to find the field, right? I think he's lining out a lot. He's making some weak contact. He's got to find a way to barrel up the ball a little bit more. Like, his barrel percentage has never been super high, but he's usually been in the 40th percentile in this, and he's down at the 18th percentile. So that means he's just not squaring it up like he used to.
Yeah, but you're right. The approach is still good. I mean, I was able to go to the game Sunday, and he just looked really locked in with his at bats. He's walking 13.5% this year. He's only striking out 15.3%. That's what you wanted as the leadoff hitter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's almost a 1-to-1 ratio. So he's doing the job there. Like you said, and I don't know if there's some ballpark adjustment. I don't think any of his balls would be going out at Great American Small Park. So it's not like it's like, oh yeah, he'd be having like 10 home runs now. Like, I still think he'd be going through those same issues if he was in Cincinnati. But again, I think, once he's able to find the gaps or the lines, it did seem like in the last game he was able to hit the ball and pull it a little bit more. And that's huge at Kaufman. Yeah. If you can hit the ball down the line, that opens things up, because now either outfielders have to play you on the lines, which then opens up the gaps. And I think that India has that kind of really well spray approach that I think that he can take advantage. I just think he needs to get it down. But I felt really confident watching him on Sunday. It just looked like he looked like his old self, especially the one that I saw like on opening day.
Yeah, and you talked about kind of having to make some adjustments to the new park. He's also making adjustments to a new position, which is never easy, right? He's been playing games at third. He's been playing games in left. And of course, he's played games at second base, but like, he's always just been kind of a second baseman. So having to kind of learn those new positions on top of that could impact it. Last thing I think we wanted to touch on for probably the entire season, not just this series, but the base running issues of the Kansas City Royals. Mm-hmm. Bobby Witt Jr. might be the fastest guy in the world, but it's hard watching him jump and get reads sometimes. Michael's probably our best, most efficient base runner, Michael Garcia, but like, base running errors and blunders that this team's been making all year has been kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I wrote a post on it on Saturday, and they just kind of went into the base running data, via StatCast, and they basically take different parts, like how do you gain extra bases on hits, so like how well does your team go from first to third or second to home, or stretch ones out, as well as your stolen bases. And the Royals, like in terms of like base runs above average, they were the worst in stolen bases this year, ranked 30th. So they're really struggling on the stolen bases. And if you look at like them individually on base runs above average based on stolen bases, Tyler Tolbert and Dairon Blanco are the only ones positive. Even Bobby Witt Jr. is a negative. And I think that's just, there's a lot of theories. Are they tipping to pitchers or other teams? Are they a little too predictable in terms of when they're going? And David Lesky talked about this on Inside the Crown, is like a lot of times they're going on fastball sinkers, and that's not good. That's basically like, okay, that's as easy as it can be for teams to steal. And it's hard because you don't always get the full grasp, right? It's like we don't have like an all an all 10 cam where we can see like all the players all the time. So, you wonder like, what about the leads, all those kind of sorts. But yeah, I mean, especially Michael Garcia, he's got caught 5 times, I believe, and has only stolen 3 bases. And that was not his MO last year. I think he only got caught like 3 times the whole year. And so, what you kind of wonder what's going on there with him, because, if Michael's suddenly not a stolen base threat, then that just leaves Bobby and then your bench guys like Tolbert and Blanco. And that's, stealing bases was such a success for this team last year. And they can't really afford to be one-dimensional, especially in a park like Kauffman that's so hard to hit home runs.
Yeah, and now we talk about Tolbert, but he's back in the minors, and Blanco's on a rehab assignment. So
yeah,
you're really running out of guys to steal bases.
Yeah, well, I think Tolbert's on bereavement, so like he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back probably soon. I don't think Nick Lofton is gonna be up very long, despite what Royals Twitter will probably say.
Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps it up for the last week's series. Some other topics we want to touch on. Big one that we want to kind of talk about, especially with the potential. We don't know if Cole Ragans is going to be injured for a long time, but a Noah Cameron debut. This is a guy who's been dominating the minors at every level, basically. I think he had one hiccup one year in 2023 at AA, and then since then he's just been lights out. He's posted a 3.22 ERA in Omaha this year, 27 strikeouts and 22 and a third innings pitched. Only 8 walks through that as well. Just one of the guys we talked about last time on the podcast, super low or super high floor, low ceiling type pitcher, but like has the ability to stick as a starter in the major leagues. I have to imagine if any starter goes down, he's probably going to be the first one to get a shot, especially with Alec Marsh being injured now.
Yeah, I mean, I know Luinder Avila has been kind of fun, and I know that probably stuff wise, Luinder Avila is probably a better option, but you got to go with the complete pitcher for a starting pitcher, and Cameron's stats are there. I mean, he's got a 21.3 K minus walk ratio. That's essentially what he did last year in the minors between AA and AAA. He limits hard contact. He's only allowing an average exit velocity of 85.1 miles per hour on batted balls. He only has allowing a 29.6% hard hit rate. He limits the walks. He's maximizing strikeouts. His strikeout rate's 30.3%. It was only 29% last year in AAA. So he's done everything that he needs to do to prove he's worth. And and if you believe in like the tin stat and there's no such thing as a pitching prospect, Cameron's probably the guy. He's done more than enough to prove that like he's ready for a call up. So I think if they decide to put Ragans on the IL, I don't doubt that Cameron's going to be the guy that's going to be in Tampa on Wednesday.
Yeah, and like you just kind of mentioned too, it's that Luinder is just not as polished as Cameron. And Cameron's got we mentioned the higher floor, lower ceiling. Luinder's probably got a higher ceiling, a little bit of a lower floor, right? There's been command issues there in the past with him, and like Cameron's a guy who's just going to live in the strike zone and absolutely dominate. So I think if we see an injury, like he's probably going to be the guy to come up. Some injury updates we want to get into would be Sam Long, Kyle Wright, Hunter Harvey. What do you got on some of these guys?
Well, it seems like they're kind of getting back to throwing right now. I know that Hunter Harvey started throwing on Friday. Sam Long, I think, began his throwing program on Saturday, and I think Kyle Wright has been throwing some simulated games in Arizona. So he had 4 innings, I think, last week. They're getting close, right? And I think at least there's some good news. Unlike kind of Alec Marsh, who's been kind of being pushed back, and they're kind of saying, hey, like we got to do some more tests. I could see Sam Long, Hunter Harvey, and being ready the next week or two. Right? I think they're really going to slow play it. I really don't think they're going to really push him until maybe June at the earliest.
Yeah.
But he could be a big one. So that's if I don't know what they're going to do with Kyle Wright. Like I could see a scenario where they go like they treat him like Jesse Hahn and just be like and say, you know what, let's just go to the bullpen and just let your stuff work, just like Jesse Hahn and kind of like in 2020.
Yeah.
But it's but I mean, if he could go back to being a starter too, and that gives him a little bit more depth, and that could give him maybe make somebody a trade piece that they need, because they obviously are going to want to upgrade their offense. Maybe Kyle Wright's the key to doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, for a guy like Kyle Wright, for his own sake too, right? Like you don't want to rush him back to the major leagues, and I don't think he has a reason to rush back to the major leagues. The Royals aren't desperate for a starting pitcher, and they're really not desperate for bullpen help, right? The bullpen's been lights out. You got guys like Daniel Lynch and John Scriber and everybody else kind of filling in for Hunter Harvey and Sam Long. And Sam Long wasn't great anyways. And now you have Steven Cruz has been dominant in the big leagues. Evan Siska's come up and been dominant. And so it's like you have all these guys who can really play a role for the Royals. And so I think it's in the best interest for both the Royals and Wright to kind of slow play it. And I think if you're thinking about wanting to sign Wright next year, right, to like a 1-year contract if he wants to bounce back, like he's probably going to have trust in the Royals for not trying to push him too hard or not trying to push him through the rehab and recovery process when he wasn't ready. So I think like this has been super probably beneficial relationship for both sides because Royals are in a place where they don't need him right away. They can give him the resources he needs to really come back to recovery, and maybe then down the road that plays a huge role in them having maybe a longer term relationship with him.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know, he does have 1 more year of arbitration left.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if they do some really small 2-year deal as kind of a sign of goodwill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, hey, like we're not going to rush you, but we're going to sign you to an extra year on a deal just to like, hey, give you some guaranteed money. Just so that like to kind of say like, hey, we still believe in you, but we're not going to rush you because he's had injury issues in the past. So it's not like this is like, oh, this is his first thing. Even in Atlanta, he had a lot of injury issues even before this whole shoulder thing. So, you know, I think it's the Royals are doing the right thing. I think there's some upside there, but you're right. We don't need him in the bullpen. We don't need him in the rotation. Just let him be 100%. And then when we need him, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Because you always need pitching in the second half of the season.
Correct.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to trade it, if you can use your pieces for offense, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yep, I agree. Last thing we want to get into before we do some minor league updates is where we are in the AL Central right now after a month. So where the Royals stand right now, they're 14-15, 4.5 games out of first place. They have been 6-4 in their last 10. They had a 6-game winning streak, I think, before they lost that last game to Houston. Then they have a run differential of -16, which you kind of want to see that change. But Tigers are in first place at 18-10. They have a +42 run differential. The Tigers actually, I would say, remind me a lot of the Royals last year. Agreed. Really high run differential, just absolutely kind of scorching hot. That's kind of where I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be honest, when I kind of did my predictions, it's kind of felt like it's kind of worked out as I thought with the Royals and the Tigers switched, right? I thought the Guardians were a lot better than what people were thinking. I saw some predictions saying they were going to be 4th, and I'm like, guys, it's the Guardians. We always say like it's going to be a down year for them, and then they just end up surpassing us. And then, you know, the Twins have kind of seen some regression this year, and the White Sox are the White Sox. Yeah. But I like that comparison that you said is that they're reminds you of the Royals, because you're right. It's not like they made. I mean, they got some veterans like Gleyber Torres, but a lot of their guys are just kind of guys they had before, and they're just stepping up. Spencer Torkelson stepping up, Zach McKinstry stepping up. You know, Kerry Carpenter staying healthy. They haven't even really got like consistent production from Riley Green, and so that's kind of a really interesting. You know, they haven't really had their best player really light the world on fire. And then you think about like that offense combined with their pitching and your Casey Mize is starting to look like the guy we kind of thought he was supposed to be. I mean, I think the Tigers, they look like the real deal. I was kind of unsure how they were going to do, but you know, with the offense kind of stepping up, it's kind of like, oh, you know, we always knew their pitching was going to be good. We always knew their pitching was going to be good. It was just a matter of the offense. And for the first month of play, the offense has really surprised a lot of folks.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that they did too is they matched the Royals in the rotation, right? Like that was the biggest strength for the Royals last year. That's probably one of the bigger strengths for the Tigers, even though their lineups turned it around a bit. But they also went out and got like a Tommy Canley, and they tried to solidify their bullpen as well, which was already a pretty decent bullpen as it was. So like, yeah, they've done what they needed to do. The guys that they needed to take the steps took the steps, and that was kind of similar to what the Royals had happen. Like Bobby Witt Jr. became an almost consensus AL MVP candidate, and Vinny Pasquantino took some steps. Even Michael Massey was good last year offensively. Right. So like they're doing the same thing. And yeah, like you said, they haven't gotten much from like Riley Green. I think Colt Keith has been struggling a little bit as well.
He's been a big struggle, and I know that because I kind of invested a little bit in him on fantasy. It's not been good.
Yeah, and then Jace Jung hasn't been great, and so one guy who's kind of stepped up is Javi Baez.
Yeah,
like good for like that. That guy couldn't hit anything last year, and he's hitting over 300 right now. So like those guys step up. I mean, this team's going to be pretty good. Again, long season. Who knows what can happen? We're in the first month. But right now they're rolling on all cylinders. The rest of the division's kind of all together, hanging out. Besides the White Sox.
Yeah, even the Twins have looked stronger lately. I mean, they kind of took advantage of an Angels team that had their flaws. And so, the Twins aren't, they're not dead by any means either. And I think with Javi Baez is so interesting because he's kind of become like a Jonathan India this year. He's playing some outfield. He's played center field this year. And so, they're kind of utilizing him as a utility player, and it seems like it's paying off. They're not looking at him as a franchise shortstop anymore. Yeah. They're kind of just saying like, hey, we're just going to play you where you fit. And it seems like it's working because he's hitting over 300. That's huge because that was not the case the previous 2 years.
No. And it's been awesome. Should we move on to minor league focus?
Let's do it. I'm all about it.
You selected the Quad Cities River Bandits to be the minor league focus. Let's start on the hitting side and talk about some of the guys that you're seeing down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the Quad Cities, I believe they have the best record of any of the minor league affiliates right now for the Royals. So they're definitely doing well. I think we think about Northwest Arkansas a lot because of Cags Watch, right? It's like, oh, Cags Watch, what is Cags going to do? And Omaha is AAA, so a lot of people just pay attention to them just because it's like, hey, they're the next closest to the major leagues. But Quad Cities, there's been a lot of good baseball in Davenport, and there's some hitters that are really stepping up. One hitter in particular that I've been really, really paying attention to is Daniel Vazquez. So Daniel Vazquez is a shortstop. He is kind of he had some hype, and then he has faded a little bit. Now he's kind of jumped back with the hype. 2021 international signing, $1.5 million. He was kind of a heralded signing at the time by the Royals. COVID they kind of rushed him a little bit in 2022. They had him go to low A ball, and he just looked overwhelmed, hit 195. Struck out 26% of the time. And I think because of that, as an 18-year-old, I think his prospect luster shined off a little bit. But the Royals really like him. He's a guy that's been on the kind of like their prospect, showcase team the last couple years. And last year he had a really good season. He only played 74 games due to injury, but he hit 253. He stole 12 bases, and he's got a great approach. He had a walk to K ratio of 0.60, which is really disciplined. And the guy that I really did like him a lot too is Michael Garcia. But I like Vazquez a lot more because I think Vazquez is a lot more naturally athletic. But if you kind of see what they did, Michael in the minors. Now Michael was not as heralded as a prospect like Daniel Vazquez. I think he was more of a minimum signing. I think he kind of was more signed because he was like, oh, he's like related to Ronald Acuna and Alcides Escobar. He didn't have any eye-popping tools, but then post-COVID, he kind of stuck out in low A Columbia. He hit 303. He had a 16% walk rate and a 13.9% K rate, but he didn't have any power. He only hit one home run. He had a 350. He only had a 113 ISO. So, he wasn't like really killing it in ISO ball, but there's kind of some things that really stick out to me with Daniel Vazquez and Michael Garcia. Michael Garcia, in low A ball, if you look at batted ball and you look at line drive rate. So like in 2021, he had a 24.5% line drive rate, a 23.4% line drive rate in Quad Cities in 2021 he was a 21-year-old. Daniel Vazquez as a 20-year-old in low A, he had a 30.1% line drive rate. As a 21-year-old in Quad City so far, he has a 28% line drive rate, and he's hitting 296 with a 794 OPS and a 0.52 walk to K ratio.
That's pretty good.
If this guy stays healthy, it's not out of the question to think that he kind of replaces Garcia once kind of Garcia's times out, like via arbitration, right? Like if you think about like if you go through arbitration, like Garcia still has a lot of time left. I think Vazquez could kind of replace him and kind of serve as that utility role. He's not going to be replacing Bobby Witt Jr., but he's athletic enough to play a lot of positions. So Daniel Vazquez, he doesn't have the CAGs kind of like prospect hype, but he's a guy that people should be paying attention to in Quad Cities.
Yeah, I like that pick. Because you look at the rest of the Quad Cities line, there's a lot of swing and miss in these bats.
There's a lot of swing and miss. Swing and miss. But there's some interesting ones.
Carter Frederick's got 31 Ks and 59 at-bats.
Yeah.
That's not good. Then Roccaforte's got 28 and 60. There's a lot of there's interesting names down here, but there's a lot of college guys that probably should not be there. Like look at Trevor Warner, Sam Cole Assingham, who was an Air Force guy who's now, these are just like older college dudes that are kind of filling out the rest of this lineup around like the Daniel Vazquez's and the Eric Torres's. So it's kind of an interesting mix, but it's a lot of draft guys from last year. Like Canyon Brown was a draft guy from last year. Cole Assingham was a draft guy from last year. So, Werner was the year before, but just kind of interesting to see the mix.
Yeah, then you also got guys like, another guy who's been not bad is Eric Torres. I mean, he's still not really hitting with any power, but, if you look at what he's doing, I mean, he's been their primary leadoff hitter in Quad Cities, and he's right now he's hitting 388. I mean, the BABIP is insane. It's 442, but he's got an 11.9 walk rate, 11.9 K rate, so he's not striking out. He's just an interesting guy because he doesn't really steal. I mean, he stole a lot of bases last year, so he stole 25. He's only got 1 this year, so you like to see that stolen base number tick up.
Yeah.
But the kind of like the college guys, the guys who are more developed, Austin Charles is really struggling down there. I think his OPS is under 400.
Not good. No.
Yeah, and that was kind of our worry with him, just because he's kind of a projection over his current tools right now, and it's like he looks like he's getting really overwhelmed right now in high A ball.
Yeah. I was going to go into the arms. I was going to pick one guy, but I have to talk about the entire rotation.
Do it.
We'll go top to bottom here. In terms of like rankings, so Hunter Patteson has 23.1 innings pitched. He's posted a 0.39 ERA. Frank Mazzicato's got 21.1 innings pitched. He's got a 1.27 ERA. Felix Arronde has a 20.1 innings pitched, 1.77 ERA. Drew Beam's got 20.1 innings pitched, 3.54 ERA. And then Logan Martin's got 20.1 innings pitched, 1.77 ERA. It might be the best rotation in high A right now.
I mean, I think it's definitely the best rotation in the Royal system right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. And you're right. Like, it might be one of the best rotations in high A ball. I mean, that's, I think, one of the reasons why Quad Cities is doing so well this year.
Yeah. And then you got bullpen arms like AJ Causey, who's got a 0 ERA in 10 innings. Juan Martinez has got a 1.08 with 8.1 innings pitched. It's just like every single dude in this rotation and bullpen is dominating. Like Tyler Davis just joined. He's now got a 0 ERA and 4 2/3 innings pitched. So like everybody is just coming up and dominating. A couple guys I really want to dive a little bit more into. I think the first is Hunter Patteson, because this has just kind of been an intriguing story to watch. He's a guy who's kind of been on my radar. Came out of Central Florida in the 2022 MLB draft. I remember watching his name quite a bit. Like last year, he pitched well in A-ball, posted a 3.27 ERA, but kind of really struggled when he came up to high A. He's not punching out the world. I think that's the biggest thing I've kind of noticed about him. I think he's got a 6.17 K per 9, but he's not walking guys. He's got a 2. He's walking a few. He's got 3.09 walks per 9, but he's just getting guys out, and he's living in the strike zone, and it's really impressive. Drew Beam's kind of the same thing. Like Drew Beam's got a 7.08 K per 9, but he's only walking 1.77 per 9.
It's huge.
Huge. Drew Beam was a guy that I talked about coming out of the draft that I believe had the safest floor out of any pitcher in that draft to be a big league starter. Like the ceiling wasn't super high, but the floor, he's got like a 5-pitch mix that has like basically all average or above average pitches. Doesn't really have the plus stuff, but the fastball can still hit in the mid 90s. He's got a pretty good curveball changeup. Like he's just very polished, and you watch him on the mound. He's a bulldog on the mound.
Yeah.
And it's very polished delivery. Like everything is about him, and he was able to do this in the SEC, which is the hardest college baseball conference. Just dominated every single year. Didn't strike people out, but just every time you knew he was getting 6 or 7 innings. And if you're looking for like a rotation type 4 or 5 starter, that's going to come almost like a Michael Lorenzen, right? Like that's going to come out, probably give you 6 innings, 3 earned runs. Like Drew Beam's that guy.
Yeah, and I know you've been really high on him. I remember when the Royals did draft him, and in the later rounds, and you're like, hey, this guy's probably should have been a much higher round pick, and we got somebody with a lot of high floor, a lot of polish. And again, I think that's kind of what really separates this Quad Cities bunch. It just feels like these guys are really polished. We also have like a lot of guys like Mazzucato and Shane Panzini who have been around a lot, and now it's like, and yes, they've kind of repeated a little bit, but obviously Mazzucato seems like his stuff is playing up. Panzini's been really interesting, is it seems like they're moving him to a bullpen, and his walk per 9 is down to 2.31. It was 4.59
really
last
good.
year, which is really good. His ground ball rate is up to 48.5. He's got a 3.86 ERA, but his FIP is 2.58. So he's got some bad luck there. So, I like what they're doing in Quad Cities. It just seems like they got a lot of guys who have just been working on some things, and it's finally like paying off.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I've noticed about this Quad Cities team is kind of the theme and the trend that they took in that 2024 draft class. So outside of AJ Causey, you've got Tommy Molsky down there, Nate Ackenhausen, Zachary Coyer. Or I don't know how to say his last name. But you also have Tyler Davis as well. These were all guys that they drafted basically as they saw like they had plus stuff, but command issues were kind of the thing. Like guys who could be fast track relievers if they can hone in some of those command issues. And you look at like Zachary Coyer's got a 13.5 K per 9. Nate Ackenhausen has a 13.5 K per 9. Walks are an issue. Like Ackenhausen's walking 6.1 for 4 per 9. Coyer is 4.91. But it's the same thing with like Tyler Davis, 11.57 K per 9, but 5.79 walk per our walk per 9. Causey's a little bit better. He's got a 9.28 K per 9, 3.37. Tommy Molsky, 9.39 K per 9, 5.87 walk per 9. So it's like this was the theme though that you saw in the draft. It's a guys with like has that 1+ pitch or like a really electric plus fastball, but just have significant command issues that they need to figure out. And I think the raid in the zone mentality that's kind of been top to down on the organization is they probably think they can find quick hit relievers with some of these guys.
Yeah, and I think that's really huge. I think that kind of shows that they kind of have a philosophy and a system when it comes to drafting, which we haven't really seen it very much like in the past pre-Piccolo. And so, I think Quad Cities is kind of the launching pad for a lot of that. And I kind of like that it's like, hey, this is the level that we're going to be really kind of focusing on that. And either guys are going to step up and they're going to kind of be fast tracked, or these guys are probably not going to be turning into anything.
Yeah. And I think the thing is like you take a bunch of those guys hoping that you just need 1 or 2 to pan out.
Correct.
Right, in one draft class. Like if you get 2 or 3 of those guys to pan out in a draft class, like that's a winning draft class. For the middle tier rounds, like you're not top, like none of those guys were taken in the top 5 rounds, I don't think. So like if you get any of those guys to pan out, that's a win.
Yeah, these are not high bonus guys we're talking about here. These are guys that are just signing and you, like you said, these are darts. You're just kind of like taking wild cards and saying, okay, like we just hope they fit into our system, and if they pan out, they pan out. So, yeah, you got to love these early results.
Yeah, love it. I don't have anything else for Quad Cities before we kind of get into series preview. Anything else for you?
No, I think it's if you have MLB TV, you can watch all those games. So I just encourage. I know it's fun to watch Jack Caglione Jacks, but Quad Cities should be also another watch too.
Watch those arms, man. That's fun.
Watch those arms, exactly.
get into the upcoming series, just kind of briefly. We won't go into too major depth, but we have 3 games at Tampa Bay, and then 3 games at Baltimore. Matchups for the Rays: we got Michael Lorenzen and Taj Bradley going today, as this podcast is dropping Tuesday morning. TBD for the Royals on Wednesday. So that's supposed to be the Cole Ragans game.
Right.
So I think they got him up in the air, and then he'll be taking on, I think, Drew Rasmussen. And then Seth Lugo versus Shane Baz. So Royals are going to see some good arms again. Taj Bradley is like probably the one guy that could get to pretty quickly. But outside of that, it's going to be a battle for the offense.
Yeah, like I said, this series feels very similar to Houston. I mean, the Rays are 14-14, 500.
Yep.
We're facing 3 pretty talented arms. Like you said, probably Taj Bradley is probably the most hittable of the bunch. But they're still talented. They got pedigree. And the offense for the Rays is kind of streaky, right? Like they kind of up and down. They haven't been, the last couple of years they haven't been as solid as they normally have been. So we'll see. They got a lot of speed. I mean, Chandler Thompson out there is one of the fastest base runners out there. So it'll be interesting if Salvi and Freddie can kind of keep him in check. But hopefully, I mean, Tampa, it's a minor league park, so like maybe this can kind of spark the Royals' bats and get them going if they can get around to those pitchers.
Yeah. And for the Orioles series, this is a team that's been really struggling. I think if things line up correctly, it'd be Michael Wacha on Friday, then Kris Bubic on Saturday, and then probably Michael Lorenzen again on Sunday. Orioles rotation, not very good. They didn't make any off-season adjustments or additions to kind of tread the water in terms of losing Corbin Burns. Like they went out and got Sagano and Charlie Morton, but I don't think those are solutions for losing Corbin Burns. That offense has kind of been whittling ever since. Like all those prospects have come up and they haven't really kind of taken that next step. Like Adley's still Adley, but outside of that, like Gunnar, I think, has faced some struggles. It's a team that the Royals always tend to beat.
Yeah. And then, and you look at how they're doing, like Gunnar's 224, 655 OPS, Adley's hitting 213, 683 OPS. Kjerstad is hitting 186 with a 570 OPS. Mountcastle 198 with a 529 OPS. Yeah, I mean the offense just relies on big hits. I mean tonight they beat the Yankees 4-3, but 3 of the runs came on a Ryan O'Hearn 3-run home run. And it's just so funny listening to the Royals broadcast talking about like, wow, the clubhouse leader. It's like, my God, like the Royals fans drove this guy out like with like pitchforks, and it's like he would be really nice to have right now if maybe we weren't so impatient.
It would be nice to have a nice 5-hole hitter.
Yeah, a guy who can hit a 3-run home run, but whatever. Everybody was mad about something. But yeah, so. If the Royals can kind of keep them in check, they've had some good luck against the Orioles, and if they can get to the pitching, this could be another big series, and it could probably result in some major changes in Baltimore, especially if the Orioles continue their slide. Yeah,
I agree, and it's the leaders in the offensive clubhouse are Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn for the Orioles, and
what
for
a
that
time.
Team, for a team that needs to win games, that's not who you want to see at the top of your leaderboard. You want to see them doing that, but you also want to see Adley, Gunnar, and everybody else also doing that.
Right. You gotta have. I mean, Gunnar will probably turn it around. Those guys, but I mean, even guys like Kjerstad. I mean, is it really going to turn around? I don't know. And so it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, that kind of does it for us, Kevin. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think it's a big road trip. I mean, I think it's a winnable road trip, but it also could be a very losable road trip. Because Baltimore's desperate, so they're kind of like where we were last week, and they really need a big series win. And Tampa Bay is, they're kind of treading water, but they're not chopped liver. I mean, they have some talent, and they have some pieces, and they got arms. So it'll be really interesting to see too if Q can kind of get back at his former team. I feel like the last couple of years, especially when they've gone to Tampa, the Rays have gotten the better of him.
Yeah, struggle a little bit. Well, yeah, I think final thoughts for me, don't really have a ton here. Excited for this week of Royals baseball. I think these are going to be, regardless of the Orioles struggles, I still think it's going to be a good test for them to go to Baltimore, try to get a series win there. And as you mentioned, the Rays are always tough. good to see the bats kind of turn it around. Want to see that run differential kind of get switched around a little bit, but
100.
things are trending upwards, and hopefully they can keep the momentum going. And then we will see you all next week for another episode of Crowd Talk. But until then, go Royals.
Go Royals.